Hello and welcome to MyCupcakeAddiction's chocolate and candy melt tutorial, where I'm going to be showing you a little bit more about how to work with your candy melts and also with your chocolate. I get so many questions, particularly on my cake pop videos, from you guys wondering how I get the consistency of my candy melts and my chocolate so perfect for dipping every time. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my secrets and helping you guys to achieve those same consistencies at home. So I'm going to work with a few different brands and a few different options today because different people will be able to find different things in different brands in different countries. So I've got a couple of options. I know that Wilton Candy Melts, these guys are the most commonly available cake pop dipping sauce in the USA, and they're becoming more and more available in other parts of the world. I know in Australia we can buy them at Spotlight and we can buy them at all cake decorating shops and a few of those little homeware shops that you see around. In the US, Michael's sells them. They're sold at a lot of different craft stores. Basically, these come in a ton of different colours. Depending on where you are though, cost is going to vary. I picked these up in America for $2.99, but I know in Australia they range in price from $8.99 to $12.99. So for us Aussies, it's not always the most cost-effective choice, but if you're in the US, I definitely recommend these ones. We also have another brand in Australia called Merkins. Now, I slightly prefer to work with these ones only because they're a little bit better in their initial consistency, and I think you get a little bit more in a bag, so for me they're a little bit better value, which I'm always looking for when we're paying $8 to $12 for a bag. I love, and I use this for most of my more pale colours, I love just taking white chocolate and actually colouring it myself. The reason that I do this is because those candy melts, they've got kind of like waxy stabilizers in them, so that's the reason they don't always melt down super thin and super beautiful for dipping your cake pops. White chocolate, on the other hand, is quite thin and quite fluid, and for me it tastes a little bit better. I just prefer the taste of it. The brand that I prefer to use in Australia, and they for me are absolutely foolproof, are the Nestle white chocolate cooking melts. I use them all the time. They're about $3 a bag, and they're really widely available in Coles and Woolworths and all of our main supermarkets. Over here in the US, I've been experimenting with a few different brands of white chocolate, and I've come across a couple that I tried out. I used Nestle white morsels, and these were my favourite. So these are the ones that I would recommend for you guys to buy if you want to colour your own white chocolate, or if you want to use just plain white chocolate as dipping because you're not such a fan of the flavour of the candy melts. They melt down really nicely straight away with actually no additional additives. The Ghirardelli I found, because they are chocolate chips and they're designed to hold their own shape. If you bake them in a cookie, you put them in the oven, they get up to 180 degrees or 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and when you bring them out, they still look like chocolate chips because they're designed not to melt. So they'll give you a little bit of grief on the melting stove, and you will need to add a little bit of shortening to bring them down to a proper meltable and dippable consistency. The Ghirardelli white chocolate blocks, on the other hand, and this is a baking chocolate, results were good, but they weren't as good. So it melted down absolutely beautifully, but it took a long time to set. And this can often be the case with block chocolates. So be careful if you're going to melt down blocks, because sometimes a block of chocolate, depending on the quality of it, is going to require tempering to bring it back to form and allow it to properly set. And if you're not familiar with working with chocolate, tempering can be a bit of a nightmare. So I recommend more going with the melts and the chips. And obviously you've got my brand choices there for your different places, but you might have to do a bit of experimenting if you don't have any of these brands accessible to you. So colouring options for your white chocolate. We never ever, and I will stress never, colour your white chocolate using liquid colours. Liquid and chocolate are each other's worst enemies, and if you put liquid into your chocolate, it's going to cause the chocolate to seize. It'll go thick, it'll go chunky, and there is no saving it. And if you're doing a big batch, that's a waste of time and money. You're going to have to pop back out and get more white chocolate. So your chocolate options are, you've got powder colours. So you can see here I've got a range of little powder colours. You've also got the option of gel colours, so just your regular Wilton gel colours and colour pastes that are not liquid, so they're the gels. These ones are good for your paler colours, but once again, you don't want to go adding ridiculous amounts. So if I was using a pale blue, a pale green, or a pale yellow, I have no problem putting in a drop or two of those Wilton gel colours. But if I was going for a darker pink or a darker yellow, or a really vibrant colour, I wouldn't want to be adding half a teaspoon or, bigger quantities of those gel colours because once again, it will cause the chocolate to seize. So if you want to use pastes, you can, but in very minimal amounts. Wilton's also brought out a range of candy colours, as has AmeriColor. And I love the AmeriColor ones. I've tried both. I find they're both good and they both will do the job, and you can add, a fair amount of these colours to get your more vibrant results. but the AmeriColor seems to give you a really, really bright colour and you don't seem to need to add as much. So if you're concerned about how much food colouring you're adding to various parts of your baking, the AmeriColor is going to give you a little bit more of a result with a little bit less of those artificial colourings going in. For thinning out my chocolate and my candy melts, I use vegetable shortening. Now don't confuse this with a vegetable oil or any kind of oil. A shortening is a product that actually sets hard. So this is an example of vegetable shortening here, and you can see here, I'll run a spoon through it. This is a US or an American vegetable shortening. It sets really hard. When you melt that, it comes down to a liquid, almost like an oil, but when it sets hard. If you were to use just a straight vegetable oil that doesn't set hard, that comes in those bottles and they're sort of that yellowy colour liquid, not only is it going to add flavour to your chocolate and it's not going to be a pleasant flavour, it's also not going to set. So it's actually going to cause your chocolate not to set on your cake pops, and your cake pops are going to fall off the sticks because they're going to have nothing to help hold them on there. So definitely make sure you use a shortening. In the US, you've got Crisco and you've got Spectrum. In Australia, we use Kofa. So Kofa is always found in the refrigerator section, and it's not this white colour, it's more of a clear colour, but it's exactly the same thing and does exactly the same job. There's no exact measurement here, so I'm going to sort of show you how I melt it down, and I'm going to show you the effect that it has on our candy melts and also on our chocolate, so that you guys can sort of have a look at how I use it and how I do it and learn to do it yourselves by eye at home. So whenever I'm melting chocolate or candy melts, I either use the microwave, and if I'm going to use the microwave, I always use a glass bowl. You want to use a glass bowl because it conducts heat better and it allows it more of an even distribution. And you only ever want to microwave your chocolate for 30 seconds at a time. Never anymore. Don't be tempted to put it in for a minute or 2 minutes or anything like that. A little bit of heat will help you melt it. Too much heat will change the consistency of it. It will go thick and chunky. You can bring it down if it thickens up using some of that shortening, but if it starts to split and actually turn hard, your chocolate's ruined. Once again, expensive and annoying. So my preferred way to melt is always over a double boiler. With a double boiler, you've got boiling hot water in a saucepan. You can see there how hot it is. So I always bring that water to the boil with a stainless steel bowl or a heat-proof bowl sitting on top of it. I don't recommend glass and definitely not plastic, so stainless steel is your best option. So you want to turn on your burner. You want to get that water boiling, and then you want to turn the burner off. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a really nice hot environment without actually having the direct heat of that boiling hot water and that boiling hot steam coming up onto our little candy melts.